Hi, my topic for exploration is Osteogenesis imperfecta, and I'm Ethan Cassavant. You've probably heard of more common diagnoses that start with osteo, such as osteoporosis or osteoarthritis. Here's the definition of osteogenesis imperfecta. Osteogenesis imperfecta is a genetic disorder characterized by bones that break easily, often from little or no apparent reason. A classification system of different types of OI is commonly used to help describe how severely a person with OI is affected. For example, a person may have just a few or as many as several hundred fractures throughout their lifetime. The MUSER categories that cover osteogenesis imperfecta are developmental delay, orthopedic impairment, and other health impairment. I'd like to talk to you today about the etymology of the term osteogenesis imperfecta, where you may have heard about it within pop culture, the effects and symptoms of the disease, and also how it may affect students in school. So before we begin, I'd like to familiarize you with the origin of the term osteogenesis imperfecta. Osteo comes from the Greek word osteon, which means referring to bones. So if you ever hear a diagnosis that starts with osteo, you'll know it has to do with the skeletal structure. Genesis comes from the Greek word Genesis. I'm sure many of us have heard of the book of Genesis in the Bible, which refers to the creation story. The word Genesis in this instance means the creation or the formation of. Imperfecta comes from the Latin word imperfectus, which is fairly straightforward. It sounds like the word imperfect, and that's exactly what it means. If we put it all together, we get the imperfect formation of bones. This disease is more commonly known as brittle bone disease and is sometimes shortened to OI, which stands for osteogenesis imperfecta. Osteoporosis is very similar to osteogenesis imperfecta. However, the symptoms of osteoporosis are not prevalent until a fracture occurs and is more common after the age of 35. You may have heard of the movie Unbreakable. If you haven't seen it, it's about 16 years old, and I'm about to ruin a little bit of the movie for you. The villain, Elijah, played by Samuel L. Jackson, lives with osteogenesis imperfecta. I'd like to read to you a small section of his monologue from the movie. I have something called osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a genetic disorder. I don't make protein very well, and it makes my bones very low density and very easy to break. I've had 54 breaks in my life, and I have the tamest version of this disease, type 1. There are type 2, type 3, and type 4. Type 4s don't last very long. First, I want to talk about the protein that he mentioned. The protein that he's talking about is collagen. It's the protein in our body that acts as the glue for our whole body. It's what gives bones their strength, skin its elasticity, and keeps tendons strong. As we get older, the production of collagen slows down significantly, which is why older individuals have more brittle bones, joint problems, and sagging skin. He also mentioned that he has low density bones. What this means is when bones are produced, sometimes they get produced with cracks. Sometimes they're formed with a mesh-like structure and not solid. And sometimes they start to get deformed. So that's what he means. When you have a low density bone, there's cracks, it could be mesh-like, or it could start to bend. Next, he talked to you about the types of OI. There's actually 8 types of OI. The first 4 are the most common. The last 4 have different variations on the first 4. Type 1 is the mildest and most common form of OI. It's characterized by mild bone fragility, relatively few fractures, and dislocations can occur due to malleable joints. You can also see some blue and gray in the white part of their eyes. Type 2 is where I'm going to make the correction from the monologue. Type 2 is actually the most deadly and fatal form of OI. It's characterized by severe deformities. You can have many fractures, and most have very short lives. The most common causes of death from type 2 OI are related to respiratory issues caused by malformed rib cages or underdeveloped lungs. Type 3 is characterized by fractures at birth. They tend to be shorter because of fragile bones. And you will see blue and gray in the white part of their eyes. There is often severe bone deformity with type 3 osteogenesis imperfecta. Type 4 is very similar to type 3. They still have very brittle bones, however most fractures of type 4 OI occur before puberty. The whites of their eyes in type 4 are still pretty white. They can still be very short because there are still definitely some deformities to the bone in type 4 OI. Some implications for students with OI in your classroom. It could be a good idea to have the student tour your school before enrollment to familiarize them with the surroundings and to be prepared to move fluently throughout the school. You may think that you'd want to keep these students in their own designated working area, and that may be a good idea. It's important to have clear pathways for movement in the potential classroom. In some cases, students with OI use wheelchairs and walkers, and you want to be able to have them get to where they're going in the classroom. It would also be a good idea to educate the rest of the class on what OI is and how it can affect learning in social situations. This will also help to lessen the stigma for that student with OI being different. It'll be important to prepare for the worst as well. Both yourself and the class should be educated on how to react in the event of a student with OI having a broken bone. A few strategies for teaching students with OI. You most definitely want to be careful about physical contact with these students. However, students with OI should be integrated into the class like every other student. This disease has no bearing on the learning ability, and they should be taught subjects at the same pace as other students. Group activities in a safe setting can be very beneficial to a student with OI. They can get tired when writing and often require breaks, so it's important for those students in the group to help them out. The buddy system is also a great idea in most aspects of the school day. If you can choose out a mature student that's capable of explaining assignments and helping the student write, it'll be very beneficial to them. Some accommodations you may want to make for a student with OI in your classroom are taking frequent breaks. It's very common for students with OI to get burnt out very fast, so you want to make sure that they have enough time to keep going with their work. Preferential seating is also a great accommodation to make for these students. You don't want these students to have to travel a long distance to get to their seat, and it's also good for you to be there to help them out as well. Leaving the class early is also a great accommodation because it allows the student to get to their class on time. Often students with OI have to walk with the aid of a walker or in wheelchairs, so it helps for them to be able to leave class early. Some modifications you may want to make to the curriculum for students with OI is to avoid strenuous physical activity, such as gym class. These situations are where broken bones can be very common due to incidental contact. Another modification you might want to make is to allow for oral responses as opposed to written responses. As mentioned before, students with OI can have muscle fatigue and burnout, so writing for them can be very difficult. Another modification you could make is to expect less of the material to be covered. If a student with OI gets stuck behind, it can't be expected for them to give written assignments at the same speed. So allowing less material to be covered would still get them that learning they need without having to be stuck behind. Finally, cures and treatments. There is no cure for OI. However, there are two types of treatments. One of them involves getting IV injections with medication to help your bones grow stronger. The other involves an operation of two possible types. One, where they insert a rod inside the bone to keep it nice and strong. Or, if they have a deformed bone, to put rods on the outsides of the bones and straighten them out so that they're no longer deformed. Now finally, I'd like for you to watch a video for me. It's entitled Me, Myself, and OI. It's on World OI channel. If you type in Osteogenesis Imperfecta in YouTube, it should be the very first thing to pop up. Go ahead and take a look at that video, and then send me a response as to what you think your life would have been like had you had OI. Thank you very much for viewing my performance, and I hope you have a great day.